One day I was watching the police enforcement of this legal system and saw people coming out of a box or a chariot, so to speak, a modern chariot, being brought through to be arraigned and processed like cheese. And it's stated on the side of the vehicle, state or Department of Corrections. And I remember the birth record and what's going on here. Even it talks about this document being sufficient and correct, but it's only talking about the surname because the given name is not part of this record. It's not required, though it's implied that the child will follow the heirs of the forefathers and will enter into a claim of title and claim something that's in error that's not theirs. So that would be I would just simply say a state of corrections. When somebody's in error and going to surety something in the future that's not their title, then they'd be living in a state of corrections. And of course, there's many people out there saying that what I'm saying is not right or true, but what's happening there is if you are not willing to be correct, then you will be corrected by this legal system. And they're equipped with clubs, bats, tasers, and whatnot. And on top of it, you'll end up being a surety for your own imprisonment because you're suretying a fictitious version of yourself in a parable acting as the prodigal son who's gone away from his spiritual father, and now you're living in legal corrections in a system that's going to hold you liable for every one of your errors and actions. Now, when we go to the book of Peter, and I've read this many times, the book of Peter talks about people that basically are like false prophets that are basically preaching damnable heresies. This is humanism. Humanism denies the divinity of Christ and his Father, and it says that man can perfect himself. And you'll do that, of course, with money. They call those people philanthropists. Those are the certain people that are operating this medical direction that's going on right now worldwide and acting like great entrepreneurs, putting billions of dollars into it to do the opposite of what God talks about in Genesis with his mission statement, be fruitful, become many. They're doing birth control and eradication of people. But it also goes further, talking about these type of people. He says, for when they speak great swelling words of vanity, they allure through the lusts of the flesh, through much wantonness, those that were clean escaped from them who live in error. So there are those that are living in error, and certainly it makes sense. We even talked about that case of Massachusetts versus Jacobson, dealing with that particular enforcement of medical treatment on someone. And of course, it listed his case as Jacobson versus Massachusetts, or Jacobson in error versus Massachusetts. So isn't that interesting that when you're being told directly right there, but you can't see it at the moment, they're actually still telling you? And so these are all judgments in error because a child could never have been part of this, but then he gets induced into it because of the parents' misunderstanding of truth and wisdom from Scripture and putting their trust in men and their governments and then doing things that are wrong and then following a life that is wrong and a direction and a path that is wrong. So we go to one other key part of this scripture, which talks about basically people that are tricked with feigned words. It says they'll make merchandise out of you in Peter with feigned words. And we already went through that when you look up in Black's 10th Law Dictionary, under fictio, which is just an abbreviation of fiction, but it's the Latin fictio, in brackets it says to feign. So are you being feigned by your own consent? Are you claiming private gain out of a public title that is not yours? Are you pulling a job on the legal state? Are you going to be in a state of correction? I hope that this video has assisted you.